Joe, in the fall of 2013, the expansion of the public housing project located at 120 South State became a hot issue at the City Council. Advocates on both sides of the issue spoke before the Planning Commission and the City Council. And on January 8th, 2014, the Elgin City Council granted the Housing Authority of Elgin the final approval to undertake the expansion of their housing project at 120 South State Street. Would you explain what you think of that project and the way in which it was handled?
Thank you, and I'll stand up again. It's bad enough when you're short. When you sit down, you're looking short. One of the thoughts that came to my mind when I saw this, once again, I was the regional director responsible for housing over 516 public housing authorities. And I can tell you that increasing the density in a footprint like that is a failed model. It's a failed model. You look at Chicago, the public housing is all gone. They go to low-level dispersed housing. I think that if the city would have brought in some experts to look at that model, they would have said, don't do it. HUD does not get involved at the local level. If you want to build up and you comply with your own zoning rules, that's okay. But there isn't any community that does that anymore because it's not successful. You are setting up people for failure. And when you look at the traffic patterns that are going to happen, when you look at the amount of low-income residents that are going to be situated, why would you do that? The model today is to disperse housing throughout, low-level housing throughout the community. It works. It gives people an advantage. It gives people a heads up. It gives people the opportunity to see other neighborhoods instead of failure.
Mr. Mayor? Thank you. The Elgin Housing Authority is not part of the City of Elgin. It's run by the federal government. We have a representative on there, is Councilman John Stephan. They have their own board. When they came to us, it was federal money, and they said, this is the project that we are offering. There was no discussion about where you want to go. There was no discussion about doing anything different. The money is earmarked for this building only. That building houses senior citizens. It was built in the 1960s. Some of those apartments are 200 and 300 square feet. They're extremely small. And many of those things just included an expansion. It did increase the density a little bit, but we also added some property. One thing people didn't talk about, as part of that project, we took down the #1 eyesore and the worst house in that entire neighborhood and improved the neighborhood. That was part of the plus for the City of Elgin. That house was a detriment to the community and a detriment to the City of Elgin. You can talk about moving those people out of there. Senior citizens need to be where their services are. You can't locate them out and scatter them around the community because they cannot get to mass transportation, and many of them need mass transportation right at their site. They need to have the services close by because they're not mobile. That's why it's a senior development. It's a senior development. It was designed to be what it was. HUD came back with their designation, or I should say the Housing Authority came back with their designation, said this is what we want to build. It wasn't given an option to us to go anywhere else.
Mayor, with all due respect, the Housing Authority is a public entity, and as you well know, and they do have options. They do have options. Their project was the RAD project. It's called Rental Assistance Demonstration Project. And Mayor, there are plenty of locations within the city where the Housing Authority could have gone. The other thing I was going to say is, and I appreciate Mr. Steffens and others who've served, but there aren't many housing authorities where you have trustees, aldermen serving on the board. It's almost like a conflict of interest. Because what they're doing is, on one, they're starting to talk about issues, they take a vote on an issue, then the vote comes back to the city, and, it's almost like, well, our guy kind of did it. Not that saying John would, but that's the perception. And perception, and when you talk about clarity, that's a big thing. It still gets back to, you could have gotten rid of the eyesore. If there was an eyesore, Mayor, then why didn't we take care of it before? Why didn't we take that building down before if it was an eyesore? And especially it was near senior housing where seniors are most vulnerable. But they could have put the project someplace else. There are additional federal funds that they could have gone and done something else. And I wouldn't expect you to know that. You do a great job, Mayor, but that's something that the executive director certainly should have known, and certainly the board. Thank you.